Hello YouTube, this is Billy. Today I'll be replacing the front brake pads on, this is a 2011 Kia Sorento. And the part number that I went on the replacement pads is PXD1815H. The first thing I'll be doing is getting these lug nuts a little bit loose. Okay, after using the 4-way to slightly loosen those lug nuts, I used a floor jack to get the tire up off of the ground, and I've got a jack stand for extra safety, and I also put some boards around the tires that are staying on the ground. I will go ahead and get those lug nuts completely removed and get this tire set off. My dad always taught me to put the tire under the vehicle as another safety measure, just in case anything was to fail, the car wouldn't crash completely to the ground. This is your brake caliper. Right here's your brake caliper, and this middle part of it is what we need to get your brake pads are in here. Right here's a good view. Caliper here, the piston of the caliper, and you can see the edge of the brake pad there. So I will figure out the socket size on this top bolt here, and I'm sure this bottom bolt is going to be the same size. I'll get these loosened off, and I will also get like a zip tie or a coat hanger or rope string, something so that when I get this caliper pulled up, you see your brake line goes into the caliper here, so you don't want it just dangling. The weight of this thing, it's not a good idea to have your brake line hanging with that kind of weight, so it's a good idea to take a string or something and, like up here on the spring, you know, tie it up so it's hanging off a rope or a wire or something. On this bolt size, I'm using a 14 millimeter, and these are just regular standard thread. So righty tighty and lefty loosey. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these two bolts out. After loosening them a little bit with a 14 millimeter, I was able to spin these off by hand the rest of the way. So I'll set these to the side for now. And I've got my zip ties right here close by, so that when I raise this piece up, I'll run a zip tie up here to tie it up. Okay, so that caliper, I just raised it up like this, and got it zip tied like this through the little hole there. And I've got it in this position because the way it's sitting on top of this is supporting some of the weight of it, and it's going to give me easier access later whenever I'm using a clamp to push this piston back. Because right now this piston, it's extended out. This piston right here, it's pushed out because the brake pads are thinner, because they're, you know, need to be replaced and stuff. The new brake pads are a lot thicker, so we have to push this caliper back so that this will fit down on top of the new thicker brake pads. So this is how I've got it rigged up. And right here you can see the brake pads. So I'm just going to grab this one and wiggle it out just like that, and you can see it's got a little ear that goes down in there, and it's got another little ear that's up in here. So just wiggle this guy out, and here is one of the pads there, and you can tell this metal plate that the pad is glued to. This side over here is the pad, anytime that the pad is getting thinner than the metal that it's glued to, it's definitely time to replace the pads as soon as you're able to, for sure. You don't ever want to go too long, and you know, once that pad wears completely down, then it's metal on metal, and that's never good. It causes some real serious things in any event. So there's this pad. We'll just set that down, and then this back side, I'll just wiggle it out as well. There's the back one. There's both of those, and it's real easy to decipher which one came from where, okay? And what I mean by that is, so if you look at them, you see these, this is the pad and that's the pad. So we'll just do like this, flip them over so that these are the metal plates, okay? So on this one, you can see a very distinct round imprint from that caliper's round. See this round caliper right here. When that caliper when you push a brake pedal, that round caliper pushes out, and when it pushes out, it causes both sides to squeeze onto the rotor, this frisbee looking thing here, and that's how your brakes function, okay? So when you're doing all this, and if you're wanting to make sure that you're putting the new pads back in the same spot as where the old ones come off, on this back side, you can tell, see how that's got that perfect round imprint? That's because that round piston has been pushing on that pad ever since that pad's been in this vehicle. And on this side, you see more of a horseshoe look, because on this side, see this kind of horseshoe look here? That's, so this horseshoe one is on this side, on the outside, and the piston is on the back side. So let me grab the new pads and show you the difference between the old and new. Okay, so after setting matching new pads right beside the old pads, that's what I have here. Is this one matches this one and this one matches this one. When you're doing all that, you want to look really closely and make sure that it's an exact match. If there's any sort of discrepancy on the pad itself, then you may want to go back to the auto parts store and make sure that they didn't give you an incorrect part number or something like that. You want it to be an exact match. So these match up very excellent. So I just wanted to show you guys the difference of the old and new. So there we go. So you can see how the old one versus the new one. See, on the new one, the pad is more than twice as thick as the plate that it's glued to. Yeah, so very big difference from old to new. And just as simple as we slid these old pads out, we will slide the new pads in. This one is the one that matches this one. These two are match, and this one is the one with the horseshoe look. So this one is the one that goes closest to me. So I'll set this old one to the side and grab the new one, and it's gonna I'm gonna get that bottom ear going in, and then get this top ear going in, just like that. And it's pretty easy to slide the new pads into place there. And same thing with the back side. I'll grab the matching pad and we'll get that slid into place here. Get that bottom ear kind of dropped into the little slide that it slides into. And just like that. So the new pads are basically in there. Good idea to put some grease on this this back pad, the plate, this plate right here, because when that piston pushes on it, it pushes against this plate that the pad's glued to, okay? It's a good idea to put some grease right here. All it does is prevent the piston of the caliper. It prevents it from wanting to get stuck to the brake pad or anything like that. So if you're able to recycle, you can just come in here and grab some of this grease that was used before and just smear it all on there, all where that piston pushes up against that plate on the back of that pad. Before we can get this caliper to fit over back where it used to be, we've got to get this piston pushed back. I've seen and heard of people using like some channel locks to squeeze on it. Me, myself, I like to use a clamp. So like this clamp, and what I will do is I will take, so this pad right here with the round mark on it is the pad that that the piston was pushing on. And then I'll put this pad right there like that, and then I'll put the C-clamp on there, and the C-clamp will push up against that brake pad and then come around to the back side. Now on this back side, that's where your hose is coming into this fitting here, okay? And you want to be careful that you're not putting your clamp or tool, whatever you're using, you don't want to do any kind of damage to your fitting where your brake hose line is coming into the backside of the caliper. So this area right here is large enough for me to get my clamp safely right here without putting any kind of pressure on. So just be careful and aware of that when you're pushing this piston back. So this is what it looks like when I've got it rigged up. I'm very careful that I'm not doing any kind of damage to my fittings in the back side. And I've got the old brake pad in there just to help push that caliper evenly back. And got the clamp rigged up like that. So before I start trying to push that piston back, what I'm gonna do is pop the hood of the vehicle. After popping the hood of the vehicle, right over here on the driver's side right here, this reservoir is where the brake fluid is added when it needs brake fluid. And I will take this cap off, and I'll set this cap right up here on the windshield wiper for now. See, when I push that piston back, more fluid is going to come back into this reservoir. And so while I'm doing all that, I will tighten it up a little bit. You know, I'll push it back a little bit, come up here and look back and forth, you know, pushing that piston back, because I really don't want a mess of brake fluid in the floor of my garage. So if it starts looking like I need to siphon some out because it's fixing to start spilling, then I will just take a small hose and carefully pull some of that fluid out so that it's not going all over my floor. So by taking that cap off, it gives the fluid easy access to come back to this reservoir. So now I'm ready to start tightening up on that clamp. Okay, I've tightened it up quite a bit, and it's pushing that piston back and coming up to the top side to see how that fluid's doing up here. And oh yeah, it's definitely coming right up to the top there. So I'll just babysit that and probably end up getting my little suction hose out to get some of that fluid out so it don't go all over my floor. Yes, it was definitely fixing to start spilling in my floor. So I have a really long aquarium airline hose. That's what this is. And I used it to prevent the brake fluid from going all over the floor. I was able to get some out with this real long aquarium airline. Okay, so now that I've removed some of that fluid so that it don't go all over my floor, now I went ahead and continued to slowly tighten this clamp until it just won't go anymore. So now the piston is pushed all the way back. So now I'll go ahead and get my clamp and everything off and out of the way. This caliper head is now ready to go down over those new brake shoes. Okay, so I got the clamp and stuff out of the way there, and this rubber, see this rubber, how it's kind of pooched out and awkward in spots? All I'm doing is taking my finger, mashing around on it, kind of trying to shove it in that little groove a little bit. Want that out of the way whenever we're sliding this caliper head back into place. So all I'm doing is just kind of pushing down on all the little areas that look like it was poofed out. And okay, so now that we've got that looking all nice and pretty, and okay, so now I don't know how good you can see that in the video, but anyways, that little rubber was kind of pooched out funny, and anyways, all I did was just mash around on it to get that back into place. In any event, so now that that's all looking proper, go ahead and get this zip tie carefully cut and get this caliper head back into place over these new brake pads. And you can tell where I smeared some grease on both on the caliper side as well as this side over here. You just want to keep it from sticking. Okay, one more thing I'd like to show you guys. Prior to putting the caliper head back over these new brake pads, you see these slide bolts. That's why they're called slide bolts, because they move around like this. Right now it's a good time to make sure that they move around freely, and you know, as long as they're moving around, you're good. In any event, what I'm doing is I want to kind of shove them in, because if they're pulled out, it's going to make it tricky to get this head into place. So I'm just shoving them in good. That way it helps me easily get everything lined up. Okay, while I was bringing that caliper head back into place, go ahead and get this zip tie cut out of there while I'm thinking of it. Okay, so while I was carefully getting that caliper head slid back into place, I just make sure that my hose is not in a weird bind or twist or anything. So now I've got these bolts just in there as good as I can by fingers. Both of them are just there as good as I could by hand. So now I'm going to take the 14mm ratchet and get these. See, once it starts feeling a little tight, I'm not going to go much more. I'm just going to go just a little tiny bit more. See, a lot of these are aluminum body, so you don't want to try to over tighten this. You could do yourself more harm than good and more costly repair. So once it starts feeling tight, maybe just a hair more, not much. You don't want to over tighten it, okay? All that's left is getting that tire on. Okay, I carefully got the wheel into place, and I got the lug nuts on using my fingers, and with each one I turned it by fingers about 5 or 6 times around on each one. Now I'll get the 4-way on there and snug them, and when I snug them, I'll go in a star pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you go in that star pattern, it helps bring the wheel in nice and even. Okay, now I've did that star pattern with the 4-way and got them all snug. So they're all just snug right now. So I went over them once and got them snug, and then went over them a second time and just confirmed that each one is just snug. It's not tight or torqued down or anything. For now, it's just snugged up good. So now I'll get the floor jack and jack stand out of the way, get the vehicle back down to the ground. Okay, so now that I've got the car back to the ground, with the weight of the vehicle back down to the ground, now I'm torquing these lug nuts into place, and the exact same procedure on the other side of the car. Okay, once you get both sides finished up, get your reservoir, make sure your reservoir level is good. On this vehicle, it says right here is the maximum level, and on both sides I did have to pull out some fluid. In the event I used a hose to pull some fluid out so that it didn't end up all in my floor. But I've got it exactly at the maximum line there. So I get my cap screwed back onto place. It's kind of pushed down and twist, and it kind of clicks whenever it twists just right. So now the cap's back on. Now I can close the hood. Okay, last but not least, I'm starting the vehicle. Okay, the vehicle is running. And on the brake pedal, I'm going to really work that brake pedal. I'm going to go down, and on this when I first push it down, it's going to go down like it's not going to feel normal that first time. But I'm going to go up and down about 5 or 6 times, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down, until the brake pedal feels normal. So that first time it went way down real easy like. Second time feels better. Third time feels better. Fourth time starting to feel normal. That's 5, and one more time. Okay, so now the brake pedal's feeling normal. That gets the caliper and everything realigned properly. You do not want to put the vehicle in gear until your brake pedal feels normal. Okay, well, for anybody this video may help. Well, everybody be safe out there, and good luck. Bye.